what about the person who is grieving? Typically, grieving takes years to let go. Then what would be your advice to those people lingering on the grieving?
That is mental illness. That is craziness. That doesn't show how much you respect your parents or whoever's died. It just shows you how you don't follow their teachings about love and letting go. This was even from the time of the Buddha. There was a man who lost his son tragically, and after doing the cremation ceremony, he would go to the cremation ground every evening, crying, "I want my son back. Why did my son have to die? So I loved him so much. He was the best son in the world. This is unfair. I want him back." And every evening he would go there and cry. And of course the family let him do grieving for about a week. And then they decided that he's getting sick and staying up all night with grief, and also not attending to his business. This is not good for him. And so but how could they teach this stubborn man in grief to overcome his terrible crying and weeping and wailing? So what they did, they hired a young man who was about the same age as his son, who was an actor. They paid him some money, and we want you to also go to the cremation ground the next evening, which he did. And so there was the father crying for his son. "Oh, my son was so young and full of life. Why did he have to die?" Crying. And then this actor was also crying. "Oh, it's so sad. It's so terrible." And so the father looked at him and said, "You're just like my son. Obviously you're not my son. And just remind me of him. But why are you crying?" "Oh, it was my birthday today, and my mother and father said they would buy me anything I wanted. And they didn't. They broke their promise. That's why I'm crying. That's why I'm so sad." And the father said, "Look, I'm wealthy. And what did they want to buy you? I'll buy it for you, because you remind me of my son." And he said, "Oh, they promised to buy me the moon. And there it is in the sky. They didn't keep their promise." And the father said, "You're mad. You're crazy. No one can buy you the moon." And the son took the opportunity. "Well, what are you crying for?" "I'm crying for my son who's dead." "Look, you can't get your son back, but at least you can see the moon. Who's the crazy one?" And he got it, and the father just went back home and just, got back on his business and lived a healthy life. That's in the Dhammapada, stories, the man who cried for the moon.
Very lovely story. Have you actually know much about near-death experience?
Wow, I'm an expert. Look, honestly, the Buddhists know more about death than any other religion. Christians, Muslims, Jews only die once. They don't get reincarnated, we get reincarnated. So we have the experience. So if you want to know about death, Buddhists, Hindus, the experts. So of course, sometimes through meditation you can remember your past lives and the time in between. If you don't try the meditation way, you can do that through hypnotherapy. And there's some really amazing stories, because a lot of my friends are really, it's not that hard to do, doing hypnotic regression or learning how to do that. When I was on Psychic Research Society in Cambridge, hypnotists could hypnotize you, but I think it's only about 8% of people are able to be hypnotized. Because of the advancement of psychology and the techniques, it's about 30% now. 30% of average human beings can be hypnotized. Like clinically hypnotized and go into like a trance-like state. And with a skilled hypnotherapist, they can get you to go back into your previous lives. And this is, no, it's not weird stuff. It really works. And you know the story which I was telling you about this, or something about this a few days ago, that there was, actually that was last night, that there was one of the good hypnotherapists over in Sydney. He had a young lady, about 16 years of age, who was anorexic. She just could not eat. And best doctors, psychologists were not able to help her. So she was dying. So when people are desperate, they will try anything to keep their loved one alive. So they tried this hypnotherapy to regress her into a so-called previous life. So, this young girl was very easy to hypnotize, and so she got into her past life. Because she was only 16, they had to have a mother with her, while the man, the therapist, was hypnotizing her. You know, because of child sexual abuse and all that sort of stuff, which is really quite coming up now, thank goodness, and so that people can be careful and not allow your children to be in those compromising situations. So I had to have the mother there while her daughter was being hypnotized. And of course she went back into a previous life, and she remembered in her previous life she was the youngest of two sisters, and they both fell in love with the same man. They both loved this guy just so much. And this younger sister was, in her own words, was plain. She wasn't attractive. The elder sister was really attractive, very beautiful. And because of that, the man, or what she thought anyway, the man chose her older sister and married her. She was so heartbroken that she committed suicide in her previous life. She killed herself. And in this life she was trying so hard to be attractive because it caused her so much mental pain, extreme suffering, to the point she couldn't stand living and committed suicide. And that was the story she told. It made a bit of logical sense. That's why she was anorexic, just starving herself in a desperate attempt to be attractive to men. But while this was being reported, her mother started weeping uncontrollably and becoming hysterical. And this psychologist had to, first of all, just get the young girl out of the trance, and then had the other problem of trying to settle down the mother, who was going crazy. And then when he settled her down enough, "Why? What are you crying? What are you going so crazy for?" At which the mother replied, "I was that sister. I never told my daughter this, that she had an auntie who killed herself when we were young." It was not the sort of thing you tell people. Now, out of shame or fear, you hide that. But my younger sister, we both loved this man who I eventually married, now her father. And she killed herself. I married my present husband. She could not be this man's wife, but she came back as her son, as his daughter, sorry. That's how it worked. It's really strange, but that's a true case. And those sorts of things, just past lives, it does explain a lot about what happens. To me, even as a young man, I could never understand how someone 4 or 5 years old could write such great music as Mozart. It made no sense to me. Impossible. Unless it was remembering things from the past.
What were you in your past life?
What I was in my past life, I was an Englishman. Born in 1951 in London.
Again?
It's because unfinished business. Because we want to. Sometimes when a person dies? You know, are you really finished yet, or is there still more you want to do? People have these fantasies that of I don't know, being the richest person in the world, or being a football star and scoring the winning goal for Liverpool in the European Cup final, or have all these other crazy ideas. Next time I'll get it right. And of course you never get it right, because this is the way of our world. The world isn't perfect. But those desires and cravings, those carriers on, the force which create our future worlds. We get reborn because we want to. One of my friends, he was Australian, he said when he gets reborn, he wants to get, he was a really good man, very kind, very generous, he wants to be reborn as a dog. And straight away I said, what? You wouldn't be reborn as a dog? You can do better than that. He said, no, Ajahn Brahm, think about it. A dog doesn't have any stress. A dog doesn't have to go to work on a Monday morning and have a boss always telling him to work harder and, you know, just to create more sales. A dog doesn't have to get stuck in the traffic and worry about parking spaces. A dog doesn't even have to worry about food. It just lies around all day, sleeps as much as it wants, sometimes gets the best food, you know, really good food these days. You know, you don't have to stress around. You can, or the only job a dog has to do is take its owner for a walk once a day, wag its tail, and just, you know, lick your master or mistress, you know, a little bit now and again, and then you get all the food and comfort you want. And you know, he said, well, you know, think about it, Ajahn Brahm. Yeah, he had a point in there. You know, do you really want to go back next lifetime and just have to be in Hong Kong again? You think the traffic's bad now? Imagine in 50 years' time or whatever. And bosses are just, oh, crikey. But then I told him, because I knew his character, well, you know, dogs in modern countries, now after they have been a puppy for a little while, they have to go to the vet to be desexed. And then he paused and he said, okay, I don't want to be a dog myself. He liked playing around.
So you just mentioned about unfinished business.
Yeah.
Is this something related to the purpose of life?
In a sense, yes. But because if we have a purpose in life, we haven't completed it, and we think it needs to be completed, then we'll try again. Because we don't understand what the purpose of life is. You know, sometimes, again, attachments, with attachment to a person. How many people here, be honest, love at first sight? You saw someone and you thought, I'm going to marry them. Yeah, okay, very good, yeah. There's always a few like that. No, honestly, it is not first sight at all. It's past lives. You remember somebody. There was this one guy at the retreat, and he was a sort of a Buddhist. His wife was with him, and you know, he was supposed to keep 8 precepts. You know, just we're meditating, not having any physical contact with the opposite gender. And he just couldn't keep his hands off this woman, and he was quite honest about it. Look, it's just, you know, we're man and wife. Just our attraction is just impossible to stop. And he actually told me what happened. He was in Germany. He was at a sort of a party, and this girl he'd never seen in this life before came up to him and said, "Your name is David something. I'm going to marry you." He'd never seen her before, ever, and she knew his name. No one had told her. And there was an instant, incredible attraction. And he said, it's past lives.
Maybe she checked on...
No, not on Facebook, no. This was years before Facebook. It was really quite something, that this was you know, something from a past life. And even something else, because this was my own family history. My mother was an only child, and she had a cousin. Her name was called Opal, and because she was only child as well, they were cousins, first cousins. And they basically grew up together. They were basically sisters. And after the Second World War, after the Second World War, very good. Oh, replacement. After the Second World, my water's been reincarnated. After the Second World War, they were just looking for their partners in life, and they went to, just for fun, they went to a medium. Those people who sort of predict the future and stuff. And this medium took one look at my auntie and said, "You are soon going to meet your husband." Okay. His name is going to be Donald, that's an ordinary name, surname Wolfries. That is very uncommon. Donald Wolfries. And both my mother and my auntie thought that was just rubbish. And of course, a week or two later, they were allowed to dance in those days, not nightclubs. And this young man asked my auntie for a dance. And she, he's quite attractive, they liked each other. "What's your name?" "Oh, my name's Opal." "What's your name?" "Donald." Surname Wolfries. They were married for 60 years. He died just about a year and a half ago. They completed 60 years of marriage together. And I asked her again, "Was that true?" She said, "Yeah, that's true, that happened." And that the Opal is still alive, she's still going strong. Well, not strong, but just, still pretty okay, no dementia. Amazing that those predicted the person she was going to marry accurately. There was one more story about love at first sight. Or is it love at first sight, or are you just continuing on our business? This was a lady called Kelly. I won't say her surname because it's not really important. She changed her surname when she got married. Kelly was an actress, or wanted to be an actress, getting nowhere, in Adelaide. It's not the centre, it's not like being born in Hollywood. This was not the centre of the world for acting. And so one evening she went to the movies with her best friend. Just, two girls going to a movie, something to do. And in those days, remember the old movie theatres had the big signs of what the movie was, and on the outside, the big posters, like, Ajahn Brahm's poster outside. Big posters of what the movie was. And it was a movie called Grease. And she took one look at the poster, this lady Kelly, and pointed to I'm going to marry that man. John Travolta. She married him. They're still married. It is the most stable relationship in Hollywood. John Travolta and his wife Kelly Travolta. Because she's Australian, John Travolta became like the ambassador of Qantas Airways. Yeah, but he married Kelly, and that's how they met. She saw his photo in a movie theatre. Absolutely crazy stuff. You see sort of, some person, Brad Pitt or something, and the posters, and once again I'm going to... Yeah, sure. But it was true. She knew it. So sometimes these things are really weird. It means that, you've been there before, you married them before, and you're not finished.
For some people, they always think, the purpose of life, just like how you said about, I see that person, that's the one I'm going to marry. But how do you really know when you're on the right track? That is the purpose.
Now this is a very good question, especially when life is the meaning of life is the meaning you give to your life. This is an important point, that the meaning of life is not out there to find. And we always like have this idea of entitlement. There's meaning there somewhere and I'm going to find it. No, you give meaning to your life. Whatever your life is, you make it meaningful. So this is the way, if you're going to be a monk, be a good monk. Give it meaning. If you're going to be an investment banker, give it meaning. Do it well. Do it in a way that you can actually serve society. Give your life meaning wherever you are in this world. Even there was a gentleman who was a bus driver. He said, this is a useless job. I'm not getting anywhere in my life. He said, no, give that bus driving meaning. You have the opportunity, to just give a smile to every person who comes in your bus, to be kind to them, get to know the regulars. How are you today, Mrs. Jones? That makes a huge difference in life. And because of that, you can give your life meaning. So that's actually the meaning of life, is the meaning you give to it.
In reality, though, we are all living under people's expectation.
Are you? Or are you allowing other people's expectations to control you? I do not live according to other people's expectations. I'm an original monk. I don't do things the same way other people do things. How many other monks tell jokes or mention the shit word? Do you expect monks to do that? Still keeping within, the rules of Vinaya and the Dharma. You do things idiosyncratically. And I'm a monk because I enjoy being a monk. My parents never expected me to do this. After a really good education, they never expected me to do this. I don't live up to other people's expectations, nor do I have any expectations of myself. Trying to push yourself into something in the future which you don't really know what it is anyway. One of the reasons I became a Buddhist, I was interested in all religions, very, asking questions, and I did go to a very good school. That was Latimer Upper School. That was because of scholarships. And when I was there, it was an Anglican school, they had a chaplain. So I was interested. I asked the chaplain, God, what is it? I'll give you a chance. Please explain it to me. I could never get my head around what God is. And so, he said it was unexplainable. It was beyond reason. It was the beginning and end of all things. It was the ground of all being. It was ineffable, beyond words, unconditioned. When I started hearing that, I thought, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's gobbledygook. And then give me something you can actually define, or just otherwise. Because even at that time, later on rather, I was really into quantum physics, and there was this very famous quantum physicist called Werner Heisenberg. Now you know Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, but he did much more than that. But Werner Heisenberg, one of his quotes, which I was really appreciated, was, if you truly, thoroughly understand quantum physics, if you really understand it, you'll be able to explain it to the girl serving you a pint of beer in the pub, and she will understand. Your knowledge of your subject is measured by the ability to convey it to even like a bar girl. That was amazing. So I said, if you're saying that and it's gobbledygook, you don't know what you're talking about. And then later on, when I met my first Buddhist monks, I asked, what is Nirvana? And they said, well, it's the ground of all being, ineffable, beyond words. And I said, I've heard that before somewhere. Do you really know what you're talking about? And that is actually where, when you met some of these forest monks, they gave explanations which you could understand. So at least you knew what you were doing. The meaning of life about being enlightened is not expectations. That creates craving and desires and control and will. It's something much different. So, the best explanation, which I wrote down in the book, it was the Mindfulness Bliss and Beyond book, I think. It was the 5 children playing a wishing game. It's explaining things with an analogy, with a metaphor, which people can understand clearly, even people serving beer in a pub. 5 people playing a wishing game, kids. The wishing game is, you have a wish each, the one who comes up with the best wish wins the game. So the first kid said, if I had a wish, I'd wish for Nintendo and the latest computer game. I don't know what I'm talking about because computer games came after my time, but something like that. I want a computer game, the latest. Very good. Child 2, you have more time to contemplate, so you can do better than that. He said, it's always never answer the question first, but actually always be the second and third. Because there was this story of the Buddhist monk, the rabbi, and the Catholic priest, who decided to do some interfaith conversations to try and get some harmony between 3 of the major religions. And that they were discussing things, but that wasn't just really good enough. And then they tried to have dinner together. We have all the different rules. Monks can't eat in the evening, and some people can't eat this and that. So they decided instead to play games. They started off with Monopoly, just a little card game, just to actually to get some bonding together and to get to know each other. And then they went on to playing poker and gambling. And that was illegal. And the police found out and arrested them. And they had to go to court. And the judge saw the Catholic priest, the rabbi, and the Buddhist monk. They're accused of gambling against the law. So they got the Catholic priest to go into the dock first of all. The judge said, look, I'm not going to mess around with you. You're all leaders of the community. So, Reverend Father, were you gambling? And the Christian really quickly looked up, forgive me Jesus, and said no. Okay, go out. So fast they didn't really see just the way they could lie without sort of any sort of bad karma. So the next one was the rabbi. Rabbi, were you gambling? And he did a trick which I learnt at school. Maybe you learnt this trick. You cross your fingers behind your back and then say whatever you want. So he crossed his finger behind his back and said, no, I wasn't gambling. So okay, you could leave. And then the Buddhist monk was the last. And I think the judge realised putting your hands behind the back was how the rabbi got off the charge. So, Mr. Monk, Venerable, put your hands in front, so he couldn't cross his hands behind his back. He did believe in Jesus, so how could he get off the charge? So, Reverend, were you gambling? And the monk said, with whom, Your Honour, with whom? So always be the last one, then you can get off the hook. But anyway, so the second kid had more time to think and said, well, if I had a wish, I would wish for a computer game shop. If I own a shop, then I can get a new computer game the next time it comes out. Not just one. Very good, you're obviously winning. So the third child, what is your wish? If you had a wish, what would it be? And he said, if I had a wish, I would wish for $10 billion US. Because with $10 billion, I will buy my own computer shop. But the problem is, my Daddy will not allow me to play computer games until I finish my homework. So the next thing I buy will be my own school. If I own the school and pay the headmaster and all the other teachers, I will sack them if they don't give me any homework. If they don't give me the top marks at school, I'll get new teachers. So that way I can get all my O-levels and A-levels passed. I can always find out the exam the day before because I own the school. And once I graduate from my own school, then I will buy my own university like Mr. Trump did and give myself honorary degrees. And that way I will not need to do any schoolwork and spend all my days practicing computer games. And with $10 billion, whenever I find something else I need, I'll be able to buy it. So $10 billion, I get whatever I want whenever I need it, for life. Now, no one except the government can spend $10 billion in a lifetime. Very good. He's winning. There's 2 children left. Now, the 4th child did much better. And don't say $11 billion or 10 billion euros, because $10 billion is as much money as you can ever get. As you ever need, sorry. Even more. So, how did the 4th child get a better wish than the $10 billion wish? The 4th child said, if I had a wish, I would wish for 3 wishes. That's a wish. For my first wish, I would have the computer game shop. My second wish, I'd have the $10 billion US. And for my third wish, I'd have 3 more wishes. That way, I could go on forever. Beat that. That's very clever. Infinity of wishes. The 5th child would win the wishing game. The 5th child said, if I had a wish, I wish I was so content I never needed any more wishes ever again. That is enlightenment. Nirvana. So content you don't need any more wishes. The 4th wish, having every wish granted, is why billionaires like Donald Trump become presidents. So they can have as many wishes granted to them because they've got power. The 3rd wish of having $10 billion, again, is the wish of the tycoons. So much money they can get whatever, they buy whatever they want. But the power is more important. Those 2, number 3 and number 4, heaps of money or the power to get your wishes granted. Those are what we call the freedom of desire. So whatever desire you have, you can get. The 5th wish, nirvana, is the freedom from desire. That's what nirvana means. And even a person behind the pub serving you a beer, not that I've ever been in a pub, not as a monk anyway, means you can understand quite easily what nirvana is.